forward.
I'm very happy that you came because you have this blessed ability in business. God gave you a great mind to see what others don't see and maximize it. But before we get into that, I'm very curious. How did this journey with Jesus start? Tell us about it.
Well, that's going back a long time. But let's start with the origin. I'm originally Kurdish. I was born inside Iran. 1980s, the war happened between Iran and Iraq. I was a victim of the bombings. My jaws got broken. I got bullets in my body.
So you actually had that impact physically?
Yes, you can see.
Wow.
In my jaw, yeah. So from there, I decided to migrate. Went to Sweden. So I'm a refugee at the south of Sweden in a big ship. You know, the warships from Second World War made into a refugee camp.
Yes.
On a Sunday, somebody was just coming to give us little booklets and maybe pieces of clothing. And he happened to like me and was an older gentleman. And a Sunday he invited me, he says, come to my church. And I'm a curious cat. I wanted to learn, I wanted to grow, I wanted to know. So I went to the church with the gentleman. Everybody was, it was a different environment. Remember, I come from a Muslim country where men and women are separated, they don't pray together. Things are, rules are different.
Okay.
For the first time, I saw men, women, children singing, dancing, praising Lord, and I was, wow. So after going back a couple of weeks there, he noticed me, the pastor.
Okay.
And one day he just, he was preaching, he came down and he says, oh, I know who you are. He just came to me and recognized me. He said, I know who you are. I see a great resemblance. And I was wondering, what is he? How does he know me? Who am I? And he says, you are a child of God.
Just like that?
Just like that. He said, I know you. You're a child of God. And I'm coming from a war, from refugee, from all of this stuff. And I was just got really drawn to this spirit of the words that he was speaking over me. And from there on, I decided that I was a child of God. I was going to make an impact. That's how it started.
Wow, that's amazing. So, but how did you feel in that moment when, I mean, this almost like a stranger coming to you to tell you you're a child of God? How did you, what happened? Was there an encounter? Did you see an angel? Did God touch you?
I felt like light. I felt lighter. I felt spirit was inside me, that I was here for a reason. All of these things that happened to me, all of this war and all of these stories that happened to me was for a reason, for a purpose. I felt like there was something awakened inside of me.
Wow.
And I've been chasing the same till now.
Wow, so that's how the journey with Jesus started. Absolutely. And you have been telling about Jesus' story all along.
Yes.
I think that's a very touching story. But, well, with that said, how did you, with the journey with Jesus, you're growing, how did you now get into the entrepreneur and business world?
Again, I was a lot of disappointments along the way. So I was in Sweden to stay there, to go to university, as I was one of the very few people who got accepted in Tehran University because of my ethnicity. They threw me out and all of this, so I left. Sweden was the first country to reject a Kurd, and that first Kurd was me. So I was destined to be here. I was destined to talk to you. I was meant to be here.
Wow.
That's how it unfolded.
That's some conviction. I like that. Well, so they rejected you, and then you decided I'm going to Canada. Is that really what happened? You just woke up and say I'm going to Canada.
I had a passion for Canada since childhood. I had a map of Canada in my room when I was a kid. I just loved to read about stories of Wild West and how the discoveries were made and the Native Americans. I was drawn, so I decided, and I told my family. I have 4 sisters and brothers in Sweden, so I had a strong base to help me get started. But when I came to Canada, it was just me. Didn't know one single person. Wow. I had to start up from zero. If you
That's quite a change.
Yes.
Wow. So you come all by yourself to a new country. Well, I don't know if I want to call it a new country because you had a map and you kind of had that in your mind. That in itself is amazing. It shows you that God honors the desires of our heart and the things we say. Somebody once said, "Be careful what you wish for. You're gonna get it."
Yeah.
Right. So you've been pretty much looking at Canada and having visions. You get here, then what happens?
Well, education is very big in my family. I started going to high school again for the third time. I got a high school diploma. I'm the only person in the world that has 3 high school diplomas and 1 degree.
You're
Yeah.
special.
So I went back to Adelaide Learning City Center on Danforth Avenue, then applied for York University, then I went to business college and graduated from DeVry eventually with business.
Okay.
Started working at FedEx. Somebody brought to my attention entrepreneurship. And I started doing some work on the side, and soon the side passion got more than the job, and I quit my job in 2006 and ever since been independent on my own.
Okay, so you started a business?
Yeah, I started with a company called Primerica, which is in financial services. I was one of their top performers for 6-7 years, then went back to Middle East, and passions changed and my direction took a different, I took a different direction after going back to Middle East.
Interesting. So with all that going on, how is your walk with the Lord?
You know what? I've always kept the light in my heart and belief that I was here and somebody up there was guiding me. That story that I told you about the church in Sweden, small town, was just so touching to me that I never forgot. Whenever I had disappointments, I remember that moment. And I asked myself, who am I? I'm a child of God.
Yes.
And I kept on moving forward through all the disappointments.
That is completely amazing. And I think, the Lord has been with you, because in the midst of disappointments, you decided to put your thoughts on paper. And then you came up with this beautiful book called Mountains Are Calling. I thought the title was very special. It's very different. Mountains don't talk to people.
Again,
But
there's a